topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Wednesday, happy Pride, and welcome to Triversity Talk. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I am Wendy Stewart Kaplan. You see all three names on the screen, and I have, of course, a guest co-host tonight, the very lovely Lady Clover Honey.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much, Wendy. It's so great to co-host with you.
Oh my God, I love co-hosting with you. Usually, we're tag teaming in person. It's right. So funny to be doing it on a live stream.
Yeah, but now we're gotta be tech savvy nowadays, right?
There you go, tech savvy, and you got to be very, very versatile. How is your Pride so far, Clover? How are you doing with Pride? Every time I go on Facebook, I see you at a different event.
Oh yeah, but tis the season. It's a busy season, and I love being busy. There's so much to be proud about. Of course, every day should be Pride Day, but nowadays it's really hectic, and I just love it. I went to the Leather Fetish Pride on Sunday. That was a lot of fun.
And it was at the Folsom Street Pride?
Yes, it's Folsom Street East, modeled after the famous Queer Leather Fetish Festival in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh.
This is what is East because it's here in New York City. It's not as big as San Francisco, but it's a lot of fun.
But it's a lot of fun. And I saw some of the pictures. Everybody wears leather.
Yeah, that's the biggest fetish there is. A lot of it's
I'm sure they have other fetishes.
Yeah, actually, the big fetish that I see today that I didn't see years ago is a puppy fetish. And I see the way young men, all these young men, pretend to be puppies. They have a master or a puppy handler, and they're let on leashes, and they bite squeaky toys, and they wag their tails.
Okay, all right, that's
yeah. It's whatever turns you on, right?
Squeaky toys and tail wagging. My gosh. That is, when you said puppy fetish, I thought, oh, silly me. I thought that they showed up with their dogs, in backpacks or strollers. Everyone's got their puppy in a stroller these days.
Yeah, they did. I have my tortoise in a stroller usually.
Wait a minute, hold on, Clover. I knew you had a tortoise. You put the tortoise in a stroller?
No, I actually just carried him, a little Chihuahua carrier, because he's a little bit smaller than a Chihuahua, though.
Okay, and of course I have a Chihuahua. Would you consider putting your tortoise in a stroller?
Yeah, but then it's a pain to wheel the stroller around the place, so just a little handheld thing is
right. I know, but people say that the animals like it. Well, the dogs like it, right? Because there's
the dogs love it, yeah.
They feel safe. They can look out. I don't know. Far be it from me to tell people how to wheel their dogs in strollers or their tortoises in strollers. What is the world coming to? You ever ask yourself that?
I know.
You just never know anymore. So what are your Pride plans, first of all?
Well, the Friday is the drag march. I've been going to for over 20 years. I went to the very first one. I'm old enough to remember when the very first one was announced. And I've been going there with my friends from the New York City Circle of Radical Fairies. They were big in the 90s. And
a lot of people I know about the Radical Fairies. A lot of people don't know about the Radical Fairies. I know they dance around the maypole.
Right. It's actually a nonconformist group.
And
started by Harry Hayes, saying that gay men should not have to conform to mainstream, just be your own. It's very neo-pagan, which is what I liked about it. And don't worry about, just be your own culture. You don't have to be a male, a butch and a femme. You don't have to join the army, get married. Like gay people were emulating. I'm straight, but I have sex with. I'll be just like a straight person, a very respectable straight life, but I'll be a gay person who's just like a straight person. So everybody should like gay people if they're just the same.
Right, exactly. But with the radical fairies, I know that there is also a very feminine side to the radical
Oh,
fairies.
yes. You don't have to conform to being if you're feminine, just embrace it. Because back in the days, a lot of gay men who were feminine were embarrassed about being feminine, or they tried to not be as feminine. And just no, put on a dress if you like a dress. You don't have to be a female impersonator or trans. You just be a man wearing a dress, wearing a lady's hat, wearing a pearls, and just have fun and don't conform to being anything. You
just have fun and maybe not even have a label.
Right, yeah, be non-labels, or the fairy label. That means fairies are fluid; they could do anything and be anything. And March in the Church was started by the Church Ladies for Choice.
Right, I remember the Church Ladies for Choice. I have seen them march in the New York City Pride.
Yeah, they were great. Who are standing up for women's rights and abortion, using the power of drag to make a point and to get attention for that. And they started the drag march. Now it's a really big. Everybody, you don't have to be a drag or trans, but you have to be supportive and all kinds of.
It's so much fun. I've done it a couple of times, and first of all, the costuming is just completely unexpected. That's one of the things I totally love. And it starts at Tompkins Square Park, and then it ends at Stonewall. Of course, there's a rally after.
Yeah, we all sing "Summer Over the Rainbow" when we get to Stonewall.
Oh, it's so nice, Clover. Right, Pride is the time of kindness and rejoicing and being nice, which is something all of us could use.
Oh yeah,
a little bit more.
And be accepting and don't be embarrassed about who you are. Be proud of who you are. Don't worry. If you're a good person, there's something to be. Just be proud of being a wonderful, accepting person who treats everybody equally.
Yes, and you know what? Speaking of proud today, my gosh, my guest today is so perfect for Pride, okay? Because she is the queen of Bronx Pride with a legacy and a resume that you cannot even wrap your head around. I can't wait for her to talk about it. She is an entertainer. She is a speaker, a mover and a shaker. And she is such a force in the Bronx. And she and Lady Clover Honey have worked together how many years?
Oh, maybe about 20 now. Has it been that long? Yeah,
20 years.
At least, yeah, because this is 22 now. I know it's since the 2000s or maybe the late 90s.
How real that's really, really amazing. And
don't tell anyone that we're getting that old, but
nobody's old. We don't get old. We age gracefully, or we age in reverse. We age in reverse, like the Walmart rollback. But I'm so proud to meet our guest today. Please welcome Appolonia Cruz, Queen of the Bronx.
Hello, everybody. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Appolonia. That fan is great. I could certainly use a fan like that. It must be these hot lights. You know how Hollywood is with these hot lights.
The things we have to deal with. But it's hard when you're a lady because then you're not allowed to sweat. Men can sweat and they think it's sexy. But if a girl sweats, forget about it.
Right. Well, we're not having any sweating on this show, Clover. That's one thing I put a stop to. We can't. Thank you, Appolonia, for cooling yourself down. And thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm very excited that you were able to come because Pride is such an insane time, right? Yeah. You go on social media, everybody is everywhere. And every single night as we lead up to Sunday, the main event, it's like 4, 5, 6 things that you can go to and more. And it's so crazy. Have you been celebrating your Pride so far, Appolonia?
Actually, I've been preparing for New York City's longest Bronx Pride Festival in July. That's what I've been working on all month in the month of June. Because I'm the one that kept Bronx Pride Festival alive in 2012 after hosting it for an agency like for over 7 years.
Wow. And you kept it going. Now
I kept it going, and now I'm the producer and director since 2012.
That is a really long time. And thank you, by the way, for doing what you've done and for doing what you do going forward. Can you give us the date of Bronx Pride for anyone that's listening and might want to join?
So the 11th annual Bronx Pride Festival and Health Fair is on Saturday, July 16th, 2022 at Crotona Park Amphitheater. And by the way, it's also my birthday that same day.
You are the day before that. My mom was the 17th. So you're a Cancer.
I'm a Cancer, yes.
Wow.
And I want to add that Lady Clover Honey has been one of my MCs for Bronx Pride for many years.
Oh, and I love doing it. It's one of the most beautiful prides out there in the park, and that beautiful open.
Yeah, my Pride Festival, the community calls it the People's Pride because it feels like a Pride Festival. Anybody could attend, and everybody has a great time.
So you've been doing it for around how many years now?
20? Well, if I count the years I was serving as a co-host with my sister Dominique Jackson from Pose, it's like 20 years already. More than that.
20 years already.
If I add the other years under the agency, but on my own since 2012.
Your own since 2012, but from the beginning, because I grew up in the Bronx.
Yes.
And when I grew up in the Bronx, of course, there wasn't any Pride Festival or anything at all. So you seem like you have started it in the beginning. What was it like? Was it well received by the community? That's my first question.
Definitely. Before I took over the Pride Festival, we had it in different parks at the beginning. When I arrived from South Beach, Miami, they were doing it in the Bronx off the concourse next to the Supreme Court.
The concourse, and I worked at that Supreme Court building first time I was 15.
Yeah, it was held there. They used to have the parade at the Grand Concourse. That was the first time I performed at Bronx Pride Festival. Then they, with a lot of changes with politicians and everything, they moved to Barrero Point Park on Hunts Point, one of the most beautiful waterfront parks in New York City in the Bronx, Barrero Point Park.
Where the fruit market is.
Yes, well, they have the pool. They have like a barge, like a pool. That was where Bronx Pride Festival started, that I started co-hosting. Then from there, we went to Cortona Park.
Cortona, yeah, of course.
And so I took it over from there, yes.
And amazing.
Now, one thing you should mention is that you get a lot of support from the local politicians. I'm amazed that all the politicians, because they all know you and love you, especially our former one. His 8 years were up, and that is a brand new one. Is that right?
Yes. The former Bronx Borough president, his name is Ruben Diaz Jr., and he was the one that gave me the nickname, the Queen of the Bronx.
Right.
And so then the Senator Serrano, his father, a lot of the politicians were calling me the Queen of the Bronx. Like, I didn't give that name to myself. It was given to me by the community and the politicians. President. For my contribution
there, you could tell all the politicians love you. They're so supportive of the festival. No thanks to you.
I'm very fortunate.
That amazes me, and the police department too.
Well, both of you think that having, not everybody is so savvy at having those kind of relationships, right? And I would assume a lot of the politicians, maybe never thought about the LGBTQ plus community. What is it about you, Appolonia, that makes you such a great, I call that a connector. What makes you such a great connector, do you think?
I think it's because I am very inclusive. I remember when I came from South Beach, Miami, the Pride festivals in the other boroughs wouldn't book a drag queen if she lived in a different borough.
Oh, Lord.
Like, that's how it was back then. They might deny it, but I remember. But when I took over Bronx Pride Festival in July, I didn't care if you was from Washington Heights and Manhattan or if you came from Queens. I'm very inclusive. One of our co-hosts, his name is Tim Moss. Tim Moss lives on Washington Heights. And Tim Moss, I introduced him to the Bronx, and the rest is history.
And it is so funny because, I co-host If These Walls Could Talk with Tim Moss. And today, one of the things we talked about, we opened the show talking about both of you and Tim's connection. And it is so ironic to me that I would be doing a show with Tim, who's from Indiana originally. Like, it's so funny. Think about that, how everyone's paths cross if you are open to being inclusive. And I think you brought up a good subject, Appolonia, that how do we become more inclusive in our own community? Like in the LGBTQ plus. Tell me what you see in terms of people's relationships.
I think that I'm setting an example to other Pride festivals because I'm not funded. I'm not an agency. I was the co-host to the director of the festival. I think that I set an example about being inclusive. There's no ego trips with me.
No ego trip.
I hosted every Pride festival imaginable in New York City and New Jersey.
Love it.
All right. And I'm showing the generation, especially the new ones, because the new ones, they're starting out now and they have this air about them. I'm like, no. You still got a long way to go, darling. Let's bring it down a notch. Learn from me. So I try to teach the people that, yes, I do what I do for the community, but Clover knows I'm one of the most down-to-earth persons you'll ever meet in your life. Behind the scenes, which really counts, because on stage, everybody could act. But
That's
Clover
right.
knows behind the scenes, she's never seen me go crazy behind the scenes. Nope. That's not me.
Right.
I have a passion with what I do for the community. I also fought for marriage equality. So, I've been involved for a long time.
Right. I get that feeling. And you just said something about being great behind the scenes. That's so important in terms of relationships with politicians and relationships with your performers. By the way, I have only ever heard amazing things about you.
Thank you. All lies.
No, it's all true. Everybody loves Appolonia, and
thank you.
Clover and Tim have spoken fondly of you, but there have been many, many others. So,
yes,
girl, your reputation is squeaky clean.
Yes.
Well, that's why. Remember, speaking of politicians, I remember when the Senate gave you an award that for all that you do for the arts community and the LGBT community, and I even gave one to me and Tim Moss.
Yes, well. I honored Tim Moss. I honored Lady Clover also, thanks to the New York Senate with an award as well, because I never told Clover this. She's gonna be shocked, but Clover inspires me. Since I first met her, she's an inspiration in my life. And the same thing with Tim Moss, and I know I inspired them as well.
Yes.
And we work so well together. You know why, Wendy? Because we share the same passion.
Yes.
We share the same passion, and that's very important. If you don't have the passion and the drive, we're in the wrong place if we don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but you know what? You brought out something earlier with some of the younger kids that come along. They may have the passion, they may have the drive, but they arrive on the scene with the attitude. Oh, and you can't have that, especially now more than ever. We're seeing politically rights that everyone has fought for, the possibility that they could be rolled back now. Right. Mm-hmm. This is in many ways a very scary time. So it's very important that we have everybody on board at this time.
No jealousy, no attitudes.
Right. No jealousy, no attitude. And you all paved the way. You paved the way for that generation to come along. So they got some mighty big shoes to fill.
Yes. I want to add that I've scolded a couple of politicians behind the scenes. I really have. If I'm not happy with something, I'll speak to them. And they'll tell me, Apple, we're going to correct this. I'm like, okay. And I keep it moving. And I don't even bring their names on social media or nothing. I speak to them privately.
As you should.
Yes, because I don't need to trash them.
Right.
Especially when I know many of them that are really allies of the community, not just for June Pride Month. They're really allies.
Right. And now more than ever, you need political people really on your side. We're really learning that as each state becomes more an independent entity, going forward, and that does look like what is going to be happening. It's really important that we all realize we're on the same side. You read some of the legislation that's being proposed in the southern states and some of these states in the Midwest, and it's absolutely scary that this has even come to fruition.
Yes,
right.
You know what? I am not a sellout when it comes to politicians. Right now, we have elections, the primaries. By the way, I'm a Board of Elections coordinator. I'm on a poll site as well.
So wait, what you do on the poll site? Tell me what you do.
Well, I supervise the whole poll site. I'm a coordinator.
Oh, wow.
I wish I could do it like this. I'm going to ask them one day, can I do it in drag? That should be funny.
Oh my God, it would be so much fun. You know
That'd
what?
be controversial.
That's a great idea, though. I think it would be motivational. I'll tell you why, right? As a performer, and both of you know this, you have audiences. Showing up and being the poll coordinator, all done. Come on. There would be people that normally would say, oh, I'm not so sure I want to go out and vote. But Apples is going to be there, and I know she's going to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, I've been working on the election, on the Board of Elections, you know, poll worker for many years. I was volunteering during the Obama days because I wanted to know how to do the work. And then I said, okay, a friend of mine told me, I think you're ready to start getting paid for it. I'm like, so I started doing it. So, you know, I love it.
Wow, that's really, really great. What made you, because now we're going to go back a little bit. What made you want to become so involved with being a person that's connected to the polls? Most of us just about vote. We don't think about the other things.
The reason I started volunteering as an election day poll worker was because the site that I used to vote on, they had no Latino poll workers. So I remember waiting online, especially during the Obama elections, a lot of people came out of the woodwork that never voted before, and they don't speak Spanish. So I heard them talking. Oh my God, I do not understand the ballots. So when I finished voting, I asked them who's the coordinator. I showed them my ID, and I says, listen, there's a lot of elderly people here that never voted before, but there's nobody here that speaks Spanish. Can I donate my time? She said, please. So I actually volunteered on the site. Amazing. Then I started working on that site for many years as well afterwards. And the rest is history. Now I represent Parkchester.
Oh, and I know Parkchester really well too. These are all my old stomping grounds. Mm-hmm. But you know, I love that you were aware enough to understand that the elderly people that only spoke Spanish. Mm-hmm. First of all, the voting thing can be very confusing. All right, I've even gone in and asked, and it's changed, right?
Yeah, many times.
Many times, but you know, if English is not your first language and you don't speak it at all, and you're elderly, and you really got your butt out of the house to go and vote, everything should be done to make it as user-friendly as possible for you.
And now it's easier because for the past couple of elections, now they use a tablet to check. Before they used to look for your name in the book.
Oh, I remember.
It was bigger than the Bible.
Right.
And you had it like through pages and pages, but now everything is in a tablet. Right. So it's easier.
Right.
It's easier for you to find you and then give it the ballot and you do your thing, scan it, and goodbye.
And then goodbye. Yeah, I actually needed help with the scanning part of it. The first they started that.
The scanners are very sensitive. So if you go over the circle where you fill in the dot, the scanner won't take it. Or if the ballot is bent, it won't take it either.
Right. Well, you know what? I used to color outside of the lines. I was that kind of kid. So you can imagine I was trying to fill the thing in. And then the people standing by the scanners, I wasn't quite sure, you know, what you do with this big thing that they give you. Now I know you're a pro.
Let me tell you, when I go on the site that I go to, when the other poll workers arrive, they applaud me when they see me because they love working with me. And they go, thank God you're here again.
Oh my God.
So I made friends with the other poll workers, the ones that check you in and everything. They live in my neighborhood. So they'll be contacting me. Are you going to supervise it again? I said, yes. So they're very happy. And I bring them food and everything.
I love it.
Well, you always bring food. That's one way to make. Like,
I bring donuts. I bring donuts for them. We all eat donuts. Stuff us up with donuts.
Donuts all day, girl. I don't know how you get into those gowns. Donuts are like.
I want to add that I lost over 40 pounds in less than a year. Yes, I have. I ballooned during the pandemic. Plus, I was recovering from a couple of situations, an accident in pneumonia, and I ballooned. But thank God I lost over 40 pounds in less than a year. So, you know, I'm feeling my oats. I'm feeling pretty again.
You're going to be all beautiful for Bronx Pride, too. That's great. Congratulations on being able to do that. So Something that you said before, you're being Latina and you can
Yes.
really help the people. I just saw Jennifer Lopez's documentary on Netflix.
Okay.
Halftime. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No, I haven't.
The whole thing, you should see it because
Okay.
it really is, besides her ego, okay, which you know what, she's more than entitled to. She's unbelievably talented and a true survivor of the tabloids and everything. But what she's done in terms of giving back to her community is absolutely amazing, and it's to be honored. And she brought out a lot of things about the NFL in her documentary and the big halftime show. They had her and Shakira were both going to be doing the halftime show.
Yes.
And she took it on as such a responsibility because, to make their point, the NFL, one Latina was not going to be enough. Had to be two, because this is the first time they were ever doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It really made me aware of just how crazy it is in this country. I mean, that there's such a line of demarcation. Apollonia, I grew up in the Bronx. I never, I went to Walton High School,
Walton, yes.
I survived Walton High School, but we never talked about this because it wasn't stuff that was so obvious, and things have changed so much now that certainly in the Black and Brown communities, you really have to be aware now of everything that's going on and politically aware.
Yes. I want to add one thing. When I took over Bronx Pride Festival, I remember in the past that the MCs were not like the ones that I have on my Pride Festival, because like I said, I'm very inclusive. I have Lady Clover, I have Tim Moss, I added Kelly Kaboom, she's Afro-American. I have Lorena St. Cartier, she's Dominican.
Right.
So I told myself, I want to add the faces of our community on my events, and people thank me for that, because when you go to other prides, you only see one race hosting the event, and my events is multi, from all backgrounds, right, Clover?
Yeah, and we'll mention you had Dominique Jackson before she became a famous television star.
Before she became Hollywood, honey.
Yeah, she still supports it. She makes appearances even after she was cast in this TV series, and she's amazing. And you not before the TV producers. What's his name again? I forgot the name of the producer of Pose and American Horror Story.
Oh, right.
I know who you're talking about.
Ryan Murphy. Yeah, you noticed.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy. So you had, oh my God, so you had her before anybody.
Yes, I have a whole history with we knew her as Tyra Allure Ross, but now she's going under Dominique Jackson, for her, But me and Tyra, I don't want to take credit for her career, but I was the one that, helped her introduce her to the community.
Right.
And I invited her to be my co-host when I hosted the last ever Marriage Equality March in New York City, and I invited her, Dominique Jackson, to be my co-host. So we made history hosting the last marriage equality before it became law. Wow. It was amazing.
Wow, that's I mean, what a legacy you have in this community.
And you were not jealous of her. A lot of queens are jealous of her because she's so tall, thin, and beautiful. But there's no.
I always joke with Tyra, with Dominique Jackson. I always call her Tyra, but the world knows her now as Dominique Jackson. So she's a statuesque, slim model. When I see her, I'm like, girl, you're getting fat. But that's like a joke that I do all the time.
Right.
Girl, you're getting fat. You're getting fat. She loves it. Yeah. She be cracking up all the time.
Right, but what you're doing is you're treating her with such love. I think Clover brought out a point that people are jealous of her. They're also probably, and I want to ask both of you this. Do you think, like, when you're a person that's just, pursuing your dream, right? But then you get your dream. Do you think that people wish bad for you? Or I think that, and Tim Moss and I talk about this all the time, we should lift up anyone that gets any kind of break, right? But what do you think about in the LGBTQ community?
Let me tell you, Wendy, when Tyra, before she became famous, right? she did the runways on Fashion Week.
Right.
And I remember Tyra even before she had titties.
Okay, wait, hold. I have to stop you right there. That's a T-shirt. I remember Tyra ... before she had titties.
Yeah, before she transformed into a beautiful butterfly. And I remember Tyra. I would give her a lot of advice. I always give it. Corova knows I give a lot of advice to those that I care for. And she mentioned a couple of dreams that she had, and I'm like, just do it. Tyra was one of the few. She's from Trinidad and Tobago. One of the few that were performing in Spanish clubs in New York City. Oh. Because a lot of the Spanish clubs wouldn't hire the Black girls.
No, they only wanted Spanish girls.
They wouldn't. Yeah, they'll hire the skin tone Black girl, but Black girls, from other countries.
Forget it.
But Tyra was one of the first, and we had her doing the club rounds in the Spanish community. That's when they got to know her and love her. So she has a strong fan base from the Latin community. And I ran into Dominique Jackson, Tyra, on Destination Tomorrow's Pride Festival last week, and we hugged, and I told her, I am so proud of you, girl. I told her I'm so proud of you. As a friend, when Tyra started getting really famous, we had a conversation, and I asked her, I bet there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork. All of a sudden, they're your friends. She goes, yes. What I did with Tyra was that I took a step back, and I just let her shine. And I told her, you got my number. You know where to reach me. And I told her, I miss you. I really do. She's living the good life. She's traveling. She's on television. And I told her, I am so proud of you. And we just hugged each other for a little bit last week. And I told her, I'm so proud of her.
Isn't that great? Somebody that started with you and watching them evolve into that, it's like you metamorphosize into a butterfly.
And now she's a mega star. She appeared in American Gods. She still do the fashion shows on Fashion Week. She's traveling the world, and I'm so proud of her. I really am.
Yeah, well, but I'm sure there's so many people that got their start with you. First of all,
yes,
you really believe in people. Mm-hmm. All right, and your love is obviously there. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know what, performers, let's face it, and Clover will back me up on this, but performers, we get a lot of garbage from people. There's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of polarization, there's a lot of backstabbing. So when somebody comes along like yourself and you support someone to that degree, they're like, whoa, Yeah. And I hope you get the loyalty from people.
Well, one thing about me is, even though I'm sweet as pie, I'm very straightforward. So people don't mess with me.
You are straight up, right?
They don't mess with me because I'm so straightforward and respectful that they don't mess with me. They don't dare to mess with me.
Yeah, and once you call them right out.
I call them right out. I'll pull them to the side and I'll let it all out.
Right. I gotta remember that, never to mess with you, Appolonia. See, I'm learning a lot.
You know who told me that? New York City Sepulveda told me that in 2020 when I did a virtual showcase. He was one of my guests, and something happened behind the scenes, and he said, "Oh, I better not be on Appolonia Cruz bad side."
Yeah, that bad list is like, no, you never ever want to get on that.
Listen, I produced my festival. I'm working behind the scenes to make the festival happen by myself. The day of the festival, that's when my MCs show up, my volunteers. But I do all the work behind the scenes by myself. Wow. Other Pride festivals have a team of people, like 10 to 12. And you see them going crazy. Yeah. The day of the festival, you see me, I'm relaxed. So I'm like, what? Why are they going crazy? Look at me. I did it on my own.
Well, but you know what? There's something to be said for that on a bunch of levels. First of all, you can do it. She can turn it out. Second of all, you probably work great on your own. And third of all, you're not standing around saying, oh, no, it needs to be done this way or that way, because you're doing it.
And the people that are helping me, my stage manager, the one that checks in, the artists that come in. I have over 70 performers on my Pride Festival, more than any of them in New York City. And I have my people. I always say, you make an entertainer's day from the registration table. If the registration table treats you wrong as an artist, you're gonna have a bad day. But I make sure that everybody that's working for me,
respectful
from the front door, from the front gate, they're very respectful, because that's how I am. Right. And once you do that in the front, they're gonna have a fabulous time. They'll give an extra performance, like more than they had planned. Clover knows how I run things.
Because you've treated them well. How have you gotten you have really great, strong values. I was going to say good Bronx values, but you have very, very strong values. Tell me about like how you were raised and your parents and where they're from too.
Okay, so my family, I'm a mutt, but my mom was Puerto Rican. Her mother was Puerto Rican, but my biological father, well, he wasn't my father. He was just biological. His part of his family was from France.
Wow.
So, and my great grandmother from African descent. That's what I was told. So my mother always told us, you're not 100% pure Puerto Rican, even though I was born in New York City, by the way. Yeah. When I go to Puerto Rico, my family calls me a gringo.
Oh.
You know what? They call me a gringo. Yeah. And they call me, you're a fake Puerto Rican. Like that, my own cousins. They're joking around, so I speak to them in English. Get back at them.
Right. Don't speak Spanish to them. Show them what a big gringo you can be.
But let me tell you, the young generation of my family, they all speak English. They're all educated. So it feels like if, you know, like I don't know. When I speak to them, I'm like, oh my God, the new generation, perfect English. But my cousins, horrible in English. By the way, I also organized a block party in my mom's neighborhood where she was born over 70 years ago. And I organized 2 block party festivals in drag.
I love it.
In Ponce, Puerto Rico, in my mom's neighborhood.
Where, in Ponce?
Yes, Ponce, Puerto Rico.
Your mom was born in, of course, I've been there. I know where it is. Wow.
I lived there for 2 to 3 years when I was a toddler. So I actually organized a block party on my mom's neighborhood. Since we have a lot of family houses, I draped them in Puerto Rican flags, all the family houses, and I used the area as a show stage between the houses, and the whole neighborhood they love it.
Yeah, I'm sure they totally loved it, and I do know that culture because I've spent time with it. Loves parties.
Yes.
But here you popped in from New York, right? Bigger than life, all sparkly and shiny and everything. How totally fabulous to do that for your mom. When you were growing up in the Bronx, what was your neighborhood and your school and everything like for you?
I lived in the east side of the Bronx, and the upbringing was not a bad upbringing. Single parent.
Yeah,
my mother raised all of us. It was 6 of us.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because you're throwing that into the universe like that's easy. That's freaking amazing. All right, 6 kids. She was
her 2 younger brothers. She raised her 2 youngest brothers, and she raised 4 of my cousins, all in one household.
Of course. And what an amazing role model for you. Because I started out by saying, where did you get these values from? Well, it's very, very obvious, you know. What a strong woman. And you grew up so you were at that point, where were you living? In New York City or the Bronx?
I was living always lived in the Bronx.
You were in the East Bronx, right?
Yes, next to the Bronx Zoo.
I know that neighborhood quite well.
Next to Little Italy. When Little Italy was Little Italy, because it completely changed now.
Right.
The only Italian neighborhood is Arthur Avenue now.
No, I know. I love that Appolonia is bringing this up. Clover, are you familiar with Arthur Avenue?
Yeah, that's the real Italian, or it used to be.
It's like this little,
New York City.
I love
Manhattan
lane with you, Appolonia, because it used to be Little Italy, but now it's one tiny section, Arthur Avenue.
Because everything, 187th Street off the concourse, I remember back in the day, that's where Little Italy started. You didn't see a Hispanic or Black in that area. My siblings used to go to Little Italy back in the day, and they used to get chased by Italian gangs.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I used to go to the vegetable market, Italian vegetable market, they thought I was Italian because I was very light skinned, long hair, wearing my knee jacket. So I used to go to the Italian vegetable market, and the old ladies would speak to me in Italian, and I responded back to them. I used to go back home, no worries in the world. But when my siblings did it, they got chased by the Italian gangs.
Right. And it shows like West Side Story, you know, people go and see them and they're entertained by them. I remember when that's how things were. We had the gangs, and it was very much a true story.
Yes, I lived it. So.
Trying to pass yourself off as Italian, Appolonia.
I really didn't try, but I was very light skinned, and right. I looked like a little Italian boy. That's what someone told me. You look like an Italian. I'm like, no.
No.
You know, and I wear my Lee jacket, my Lee jeans, and my light skin, you know, and I should just walk around with no problem.
And no problem at all. So at what age did you realize that you didn't want to be a cisgender male? What was going on in your head?
Well, I had girlfriends when I was a teenager. No matter of fact, I had the best looking girlfriends that all my cousins had, then all my brothers had, my uncles. They were like, and I used to look at them and used to go, you like?
But you did have like the best boyfriends.
Well, they used to call me G.
Shopping with the girl, that they won't pressure her for sex all the time. So.
Actually, at that time I was dating girls and I liked boys. And I'm just gonna say that the hottest, you know, in every neighborhood in the Bronx, this one hot guy, that was the one I was messing with.
Of course, you went right to the top.
I was hot looking too, and I was not feminine, you know. Right. Out of drag, I don't act feminine. So all the like the neighborhood hot throbs, you know, I would mess with them. Nobody knew a thing. We used to play stickball, baseball, football, wrestling, boxing. I did everything growing up next to the Bronx Zoo.
But you know what? That was such a great time to be a kid, to grow up in those neighborhoods. And I spent a lot of time going to the Bronx Zoo and Botanical Gardens as a kid growing up. And I lived on Kingsbridge Road. You know that area.
I lived there too at one time when I was in high school.
You in high school. Right. So that, you know, where I went to school. Now you went to, I think we talked once before, you went to Kennedy High School.
I went to Kennedy High School.
And I remember
before it got chopped up. Now it's chopped up in a whole bunch of pieces. Before it was 8 floors, around 4 or 5 cafeterias, which I used to go to every day to all of them.
Well, you went to... Now we know where the 40 extra pounds came from.
When I used to cut class, I used to go to the cafeterias. And since the lunch ladies liked me, you know, I was a teacher's pet back then.
You were?
Oh.
Yeah, I was, yes.
Well, speaking of Appolonia, don't you have a sibling who's also famous? Or
yes, in my family, we have 3 famous people. The first one is my uncle, Carlitos Cruz. He's retired. He's a musician. He's worked with Celia Cruz. He's worked with Tito Puente, La Lupe. He has worked with every Latin group imaginable from back in the day. The second famous one is my brother, DJ De Cruz. He's a producer. He's the one that got me my big break in New York City. When I came to
say that you're Eddie Cruz in drag, but that's not true. That's a rumor, right? You're not Eddie Cruz in drag.
Oh, they always say that that they never see us in the same event at the same time.
You know what? You may be onto something, Clover. There's a reason.
Fake news. I had to throw that in there. Plus, we have a similar voice, my brother and I, and they always tell him, why is Appolonia never with you? Are you Appolonia?
That's too funny.
I hear it everywhere I go.
My gosh. So 3 famous people in one family. When did you realize that you had a flair for entertainment? Were you performing when you were like 16 in the Bronx and going to Kennedy High School? Or when did all this happen?
Well, we had a lot of parties at the house, at my apartment. My aunt, my uncle's wife, the one, he retired. He's very well known. She was a socialite. So she had the best clothes and the best wigs and the platform heels. So when we were all little, when we played dress up with all her clothes. Even her brothers, her straight brothers used to put the wigs on and give a show. So we were always performing at the house. Just us, the whole group, just us giving shows. We weren't calling it drag shows. We were just having fun.
Right. And you love performing from the time you were a kid. So but when did it take on more of like a serious aspect? Because I know you went to Miami. Did they?
Yes, I live in South Beach. Well, I was a club kid back in the day.
Okay.
I used to do gender bending roles. Do you know what that means?
Apollonia, do you know who you're talking to?
You're the biggest drag queen in the world.
I certainly am. There's no limit for me on that spectrum. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. So you did gender bending roles.
Yes, I was gonna say that. I bet you talk better than me. Yes, I did gender bending roles. I used to wear military jackets, spiky hair,
love it.
Speedo bathing suits with big high heels, and the people couldn't believe what they saw, because they saw a masculine face, masculine acting hot guy wearing platform heels and going to all the events in Miami, the winter party, Prince nightclub called Icon. I attended all the events doing that until the early mid 1990s. I did an amateur night, a drag night, and that's when people said you need to be on stage.
So this was in the 90s. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the 90s, yes.
And of course, the rest is history. So as we get towards the end here, I would like to hear what you have planned, not only for Pride, some of the people that are going to be in your show, but what you have planned going forward, because you are a mover and a shaker. I know you've been doing stuff at the Copa. So yeah, if you can tell us.
Unfortunately, we're still in the pandemic. So many of my sponsors, the ones that really help out, they took a step back because of the pandemic. But they've been helping me for years. So thank God my events get sponsored by the community, by the art entertainers that perform on my stage. I'm just planning, like I said, the 11th annual Bronx Pride Festival and Health Fair on Saturday, July 16 at Crotona Park Amphitheater. Then I'm doing my 9th annual Christmas in July, Saturday, July 23rd, which Lady Clover is one of my co-hosts at Beretta Point Park on Hunts Point. And then I'm going to be working for other agencies in August. And then I do my thank you party where I thank all my sponsors and entertainers. And Clover is my MC for that.
Right.
I do that at my Bronx theater home, the Bronx Academy of Arts and Dance.
Right. You do a lot of work there. That's a wonderful institution.
And
yes.
Clover, you would be absolutely perfect there. And I love that you're talking about that you have to say thank you. I think people all too often forget that you have to have the gratitude and you have to say thank you. And that is why, Appolonia Cruz, you are Queen of the Bronx and then some.
And beyond.
You know what? Your power goes really beyond the Bronx.
And not only do I do my thank you party in September, I do a barbecue picnic that I invite my entertainers, sponsors, and entertainers only. A barbecue, and I actually barbecue myself, feeding them, and then they just play dominoes and everything. We do it on the beach. But because of the pandemic, I didn't do it the past 2 years. But it's coming back. Clover, I'll send you the info. It's a private event.
That sounds great.
Not public. I cannot afford it.
Hope I get invited to at least one thing.
Most definitely.
It's been really great having you, Clover. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You. I can't think of two people that I wouldn't want to have more on the show with Pride happening. And yes, we're not out of the pandemic yet, but hopefully we are getting really close.
Can I add my email address? Can I say my email?
Yes.
For those people in the community that would like to hire me for the next event, it's Appolonia Cruz, APPOLONIACSNCAT@yahoo.com. And for those that want to perform at Bronx Pride Festival, it's Bronx Pride Festival Crotona Park @gmail.com.
And if anybody needs to reach Appolonia, you can also
exactly.
Wendy Stewart on Facebook. I'm all over the place. You can actually private message me, and I will definitely get back to you, and I will hook you up. Yes, I will. Thank you both today. Really great. Happy Pride, everybody, and good night.
Good night. Happy Pride.
Thank you to your tech people.